What's the worst way you've seen a person screw over someone else in court?
Not the worst, but one that sticks out that they did to themselves. Woman shows up to court in a "It's party time, bitches, drink up" t-shirt. She was there for her first appearance on a third DUI charge. Judge was not in a humorous mood that day.
One time, I saw an indigent defendant who was in custody tell the judge his public defender wasn't working hard enough, and he wanted the judge to appoint different counsel. The judge asked him what specifically was the problem, and he said, "I don't want a female lawyer. I need a man who can take charge and fight for me," or something very similar to that. The judge, also female, said that's not how it works. Then he's starting yelling and getting into specifics about his public defender, just mainly "I don't like her, she won't visit me," etc. The judge is annoyed and looks at him and is like, "Fine, I'll appoint another attorney for you. But because you are not satisfied with your attorney and I need time to appoint you new counsel, I am not going to hear any other issues today and will reset your case." A few days later, the judge sends defendant notice of his new appointed attorney, who happens to also be female, and notice of the case reset for 6 weeks. The case was originally set for a bond hearing, and the DA and his PD had agreed to release him on an unsecured bond, meaning he would have gotten out that day if he hadn't thrown his temper tantrum. Instead, he waited another 6 weeks in jail just to have another female attorney represent.
A wife filed for a restraining order because she wanted the house during divorce. Husband has good job, like $200,000 per year. Employer finds out about restraining order, husband is fired. He was very specialized employee, so only job he can find close to house, ex-wife, and daughter is $50,000. House gets foreclosed. Child support at less than $500 per month. Wife has to get job as waitress. 4 cars get repossessed.
Nasty custody fight. The ex-wife was a lawyer and represented herself. The ex-husband had a pretty shitty lawyer. She kept hauling things back to court, trying to get more benefits from him, and his lawyer just let it keep happening, and it was destroying his life. Allegations of child abuse. Was taking so much money that he could barely afford a shit apartment and couldn't afford a car, which both figured in later for custody. Finally, the ex-wife's father, also a lawyer, asked to meet with the judge and mentioned a few things that he knew were going on. One of the children was manic depressive, and the ex-wife would take him off his meds before it was the ex-husband's turn for custody. The child abuse allegations were from the ex-husband trying to restrain the child during a manic episode because he wasn't medicated. The ex-wife had intentionally timed the child abuse allegation to fall just before the holidays, so the ex-husband couldn't see the kids for Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. She bragged to family that it would do the maximum emotional damage possible doing it then. The ex-wife had forged documents to overstate the ex-husband's income when alimony was being determined. Oh, and the ex-wife was sleeping with the ex-husband's lawyer. The ex-husband's lawyer was reported to the bar. Not sure what happened there. The judge ordered a review of everything and arranged for a new lawyer for the ex-husband. It was looking like the alimony would be vastly reduced and the ex-husband was going to get custody. But then the ex-husband died, blood clot, 2 months later. Years of being screwed over finally saw a light at the end of the tunnel, but ended up being the wrong light at the end of the wrong tunnel.
What's a modern-day scam that's become normalized and we don't realize it's a scam anymore?
Employers insisting that employees can't talk about their salaries and job listings not posting salaries.
Tipping for services in the U.S., and it's getting worse. It's a way to pay lower wages to employees and expect consumers to pay a surcharge to make up for it. More workers are expecting tips and the expected amount is going up. I travel globally and don't see anything like it anywhere else.
Medical insurance not covering dental or vision. Like, it's all connected, guys. If you have a badly abscessed tooth, you're likely going to need medical care, even if you have dental that covers the extraction or root canal or whatever.
Planned obsolescence. Printers are most notorious for this. Some brands, I had this long ago with HP, if I remember correctly, build their hardware in such a way that it will stop working after an amount of time. Typically, this time is after the legal warranty periods of whatever region they're selling in. The purpose is simple: force the customer to bring their hardware in for expensive repairs, or even buy a new piece altogether. Nowadays, you notice the same thing with batteries as well. Surely nobody believes it's a coincidence that battery life has become so terrible in recent years, while batteries are also no longer easily replaceable.
What's the creepiest thing that you've seen other families do that they accept as totally normal?
Growing up, my best friend's family didn't have traditional snacks, like fruit roll-ups, gushers, etc. They ate sticks of butter. Sticks of freaking butter! Whenever they offered me some, I always told them I wasn't hungry. They had multiple packages of butter in the fridge and freezer. They didn't consume the entire stick, rather would cut off pieces. They weren't poor, they weren't fat, but they were freaking crazy.
There was a weird kid in my neighborhood named Neil. He had a clubfoot. That's not what was weird, it's just sort of memorable. Anyway, we were invited to his birthday party down the street. His parents sent invites that we were to bring a present and $10 to cover the costs of hosting the party. My mom was annoyed and confused, but sent us with the presents and the money. We had to give the money to Neil's parents before they let us in the house. We were each given one water balloon to throw and exactly one slice of cake. Then we gave this kid his present, and his parents sent everybody home after maybe half an hour.
I knew a girl in high school who had parents who were obsessed with dinner plates. They had such a huge collection of collectible plates in their house that every room was full of them on display. Their entire house was basically a library set up for these things. Her bedroom was a mattress on the floor surrounded by display cases of plates. You couldn't even lean on any wall. They were all like this. The last time I went over there, I knocked one off the wall by mistake. I caught it, and it didn't even break. But my God, the rage her dad flew into was freaking horrifying. He was inches away from punching me. Never went back. They tried to nervously laugh it off like, "Ha ha, good old dad being funny, ha ha ha." The one time I asked my friend why they had so many, she went on a passionate tangent about all the cool plates they had and why they were so awesome. It went on for an hour. I never asked again because hearing about neat dishware for an hour was like torture.
Definitely has to be my neighbors when I was younger. I hung out and played with these 3 siblings. They were all pretty normal kids, but the mom seemed kind of clingy. During the summer, we would play outside a lot. Baseball, hockey, go-karts, swimming, the norm. Every single day at about 12, the mom would call the kids back to the house, one at a time. They would have to go inside for about a half hour, then come out and the next kid would go in. Never thought too much about it until one day I was actually in their house with them and found out why she called them. She had mandatory cuddle time with each of the kids. They would lay on the couch and she would spoon them in the quiet for about 30 minutes each. Weirdest thing I've ever encountered.
What scientific experiment would you run if money and ethics weren't an issue?
I'd want to see what a society of children would do on their own if they were alone from birth. Of course, adjustments would have to be made for when they were infants, but beyond that, how would they develop language, ethics, mythology, culture? And as they got older, how would they handle coming of age without adult role models? Though unethical, I think an experiment like that would answer a lot of questions about sociology, psychology, anthropology, and philosophy. It would be like watching the beginning of human society from scratch, with no external influence.
Genetic altering of humans. I don't currently have an issue with anyone that wants to do it on themselves. However, to do it to an embryo or through the parent's DNA to see what we could do to advance humans would be amazing. Alterations to intelligence, memory, physical attributes, gills to swim underwater, visual alterations to see the full light spectrum and hearing for the full sound spectrum, immunity to all diseases and harmful bacteria, ability to eat almost anything for sustenance.
I've actually thought a ton about this. I would put 2 people through the exact same conditions the entire life. Now, I'm not talking just similar scenarios, but everything. From the weather inside the womb, to the humans they interact with, to the wind every day. And I would see if they are the same. Essentially, if humans are born with personalities, or if we develop them through little things all our life. Essentially the butterfly effect. To be honest, this probably wouldn't even be possible with infinite money, but it would be cool.
Oh man, I love this question. There are a ton of geoengineering experiments that I'd love to run if they weren't both. Illegal, insanely expensive, non-zero possibility of death and destruction. Iron fertilization. Basically dumping tons of iron dust into the ocean to cause an algae bloom, which should sequester a bunch of carbon and help mitigate global warming.
If you woke up to find you were still 14 years old and you had just been dreaming of what adult life might be like, how would you react?
I'd be so happy to not have student loans anymore. I'd also put more effort into avoiding student loans.
That depends on if I get to retain the knowledge from the dream. If yes, I'm somewhat bilingual, much more confident, likable, funny, considerate, and caring, so I'll get my life together at a young age. If not, I'll probably mess up everything the same way all over again, but I'll still be glad I woke up from this nightmare.
Hard question. On one hand, if by some miracle I retained my current social intelligence and knowledge of how things work in the real world, I would work my ass off and not waste time in places where I know were not as good as I wanted them to. On the other hand, making those same choices might not lead me to the people that I currently know and that have made an impact in my life. I find it hard to digest a life where I didn't meet these people.
I'd be destroyed. My wife, my home, the family we've built together, just a dream. How would I ever grow to love anything, terrified I'd just wake up again? To everyone thinking, find her again. Or I'd focus on doing it over. You can't. It was just a dream. Just like you can't fly dragons or jump telephone poles in reality. You won't ever find your spouse again. They weren't real. Your kids were never real and never will be again. It was all a lie that slipped through your fingers.